Good morning. Welcome to today's class. Another fundamental class, Hatha Yoga. So I'm a big believer in strengthening hips and shoulders, and all these base classes are really to help you feel better. So it's something that if I only did classical yoga, not to say that that's bad, I probably wouldn't feel as well in my body. So daily I strengthen my shoulders, I strengthen my hips. I do different forms of training. So I add these different elements in the classes to help you feel your best. So if you're not walking or actively doing other forms of training, I endorse all those things. But if you don't feel so great in this type of class, I have a great class on Wednesday nights. It's a Zoom class. So you can register for that class or my Zoom class on Sundays. And those are both classes like this, but then I can see you and I can correct you, or we can have conversations about how to make your practice better. Some people like to be seen. Some people like just the freedom of doing it in this format. So they're both great. They're both good. But I'm available for all these classes in terms of making your practice better. So today we'll be started in a seated position. So when I'm sitting, I'm going to hug my legs into the middle. I'm going to squeeze my legs in, and that's going to help make my legs stronger. And then by hugging in, it's going to help in strengthening the adductors. So I'm also going to push out. And what I would notice for you, or what I would pay attention is, do I have more strength hugging in, or do I have more strength in pushing out? You'll need both, but it's usually the interior of the thighs that are weaker, and that can be partially why your knees are higher when you sit. It's good to sit on blocks. It's really good to sit on a higher surface. And then I'm going to move my upper body around laterally, and then as I'm moving around side to side, just kind of notice how the ribs move in space. So this is the beginning. I use this on the floor because it's a little less, if I taught this to you in a group setting, it's easy. You're not as much of a target in terms of people seeing you. Sure, if someone looked in, they'd be like, well, what are they doing? But if you do it in a standing position, which is probably more accessible to you, it's very, very good for the spine. I just do it here because it's really good of a base. You have a much more anchor to it, and you have more leverage. So if you had problems with your knees or your feet, this is a big reason why I do it on the floor. So we'll come back into the middle, and I'm going to circle around in a circular motion, so just getting my body to move around. And then as I circle around, it's mobilizing the spine in many different ways. Like I said, if we did this standing, you might be like, I don't like the way that I look, or I look goofy, but eventually it's good on the feet as well. But the reason, again, I'm doing it is you have more leverage in adjusting the body. So come back into the middle and circle around the opposite direction. If you did not feel good from this, I just sit in the middle. I just sit still. So we'll all need different forms of practice at some point. So divert when you need to. Take stuff out, add stuff in, and that'll make the practice better. For everybody to do the same thing is a nice idea, but it may not always work out for you. So come back into the middle and recross the legs. And as you recross the legs, squeeze in. As you squeeze in, you should again feel a greater strength to help support you. I'm going to take my left hand to the left and reach my right hand to the right. I'm going to move my upper body forward towards my knees. And then you should get a pretty good stretch through the right side, which is your QL. That's where I feel it. It could be different where you're feeling it. Keep the arm out to the side, and with it out to the side, that may be better for you. But if you could take the hand behind the head and then move the head back in space. So as you are on your, you use your phone, of course, right? We're all on our phones. When you're looking down at your phone, your head is down. So you want to be able to keep your head back. And if you've been looking at your phone, having your phone higher than your collarbone is really ideal. Having your computer screen higher than your collarbone, your shoulders, is really ideal so that you're not dropping your head, you're not rounding your shoulders. Take your right arm out to the right. You can bring yourself back up. Take the right hand to the right side. Reach the left hand to the left. You could be moving, don't have to be static. It could be really subtle in the movements. Could be more obvious and bigger. I'm going to have the arm out to the side and let my head relax down towards my right hand. And the more you get into the neck and the shoulder, it'll help you in having a better head position when you stand, walk, doing your yoga. Take the left hand behind the head. You can lift the chin. You can lift the chest. You're turning your upper body towards the ceiling. Take a couple deep breaths here. You could get lower. You don't have to be, they have different sets of benefits. If I'm lower, it just adds a different element. You can be up nice and high. Take the left arm out to the left and bring yourself back up. And then take the legs forward where the knees are bent and have the hands just underneath the shoulders. So just get into the practice of using your fingertips. So press through your fingertips, press through the knuckles, and elevate through the chest, elevate through the collarbone. And if you can, lift your hips up off the floor. So as you lift the hips up, push down through the heels of the feet, feel the glutes, feel your bum. So for me, it's much easier for me to activate my left side than my right. So I often have, whichever foot you have more weight in, you'll notice that glute will fire better. So when I surf or when I snowboard or when I skateboard, my left leg is always in front. So my left leg in some ways is stronger than my right. So you want to bring more weight into the weaker foot. It's usually the non-dominant arm will be opposite to the leg that you may be stronger in. Take the head back in space. Bring yourself down if you're ready. Keep rotating the shoulders out. And then bring your head forward and bring your hips down. And then just move your hips forward a little bit towards your feet. And then back. Just a little bit forward. You have any pain in the elbow, don't come forward as much as I am. It's really not that important. I say this often, if you have good practice, consistent, doesn't hurt you, you're definitely going to develop. It's just if we push too much, you may develop more, but then you also might develop an injury. It's steady, good practice for the rest of your life is the way that I like to look at things. Come back into the original position, and then what you'll do is you're just going to take the left leg back in space and hold the foot if you can. And I'm going to pull the leg back to get the knee and the armpit together. So this requires flexibility in the hip. So I'm going to move it forward and back a little bit, because the backward motion is, not that you have to take it back as far as I am, but the backward motion is hip flexion. So if you're lacking hip flexion, it's going to be harder to pick your legs up for walking, running. It's something we all need. You can bring the left foot down and then take the right leg back in space, and you can get the armpit and the knee together. If you're like, I really want to stretch out my legs, you could certainly do that. But just, not that you have to look exactly as I am, but my right arm is higher than my right shin. So it forces me to be more upright. So if, I don't want to put an age on it, but if you're lower than your knee, you're definitely rounding your back. And not that that's unhealthy, but you don't want to be stuck in that position too long. Right? Very hard on the neck, very hard on the lower back. So bring the right foot down and come into an all four position. So come onto your hands and your knees and just turn the hands out a little bit and just move the weight side to side. So just a hand position, moving the weight around, right? I'm going to turn my hands in, and you don't have to turn them in all the way, but you could eventually. Now I'm going to do a circular motion with my hands turned in. So my hands more like turned back towards my knees. And when they're turned back a little bit more, it's more strain on the forearm and the wrist, but eventually it's very good. Rotating around the opposite direction. And by rotating the arms in, it's really, really healthy for the shoulders. Very good. You know, rounded shoulders is internal rotation, but to go beyond just a poor shoulder position will help stretch up the shoulders more. So come back into the middle and then turn the hands forward and just push through the hands and just press through the back. So these are scapula push-ups. And then just let the chest move down and then push through the hands. So this will really help strengthen your shoulders. Let the chest depress down and then round through the back. It's a little different than cat-cows, but they're very good to use in practice. Bring the chest down in between the arms, push through the hands, have a pause at the top for 2-3 seconds, and then bring the chest down one last time, and then press back. And this will really make your planks better. So lift the knees up off the floor, and with your knees up off the floor, grip the floor, make yourself smaller, stronger. Say you needed to come down or still stay in an all four position, that works. Lower the knees and then walk the hands to the left side and look high over the left shoulder. So lift the head, lift the chest. Bring the hands back into the middle and bring the hands back over to the right side. And then bring the hands back into the middle. So one time, I'm going to bring the back of my left hand to the floor. And I'm just going to move a little bit. Knees, there's a fine line that it'll be like, oh, I don't know if I should do this. But just make it really small. And you'll start to see how the forearm and the wrist will start to adjust itself. So the better your hands are, the better your shoulders will be. Turn the left hand forward. Bring the back of the right hand to the floor. And when I move, so the hard part of my hand's on the floor, when I move to my left hand, this is where you're going to be, you'll feel the stretch. So move to the right hand and then sway to the left. Right? Just a bit of motion is all that you need. And then turn the hands forward, and then tuck the toes, lift the hips, come up into a plank again. And the reason I like plank before down dog, not that you couldn't be in down dog, is you want to get stronger here and using that strength to support down dog, right? So go back up into a down dog, pedal the legs out however much you need to. And then as you push, really pushing strong through the hands, and taking the hips back in space, right? Then come forward into a plank. And then, now if I can't lower all the way to the floor with straight legs, I could do it where my knees are down. So bring yourself high to the elbows, bring yourself all the way down, take the arms into a cactus position, take the arms up off the floor, keep the head down if you can, widen the shoulders, and I've said this before, this is really easy for people to understand, that's why I use it so much, and there's other really good ways, but they might be more difficult for you to understand. And then as you understand more of how to use your shoulders, then we can start to use those ways more often, right? But you want, again, sometimes the most simple techniques can be the most beneficial techniques. And then bring the arms down and then have the hands underneath the shoulders, lift up into a low cobra and bring yourself down. Bring yourself up. Now when you're up, think of extending forward. Bring yourself down. Last time coming up, and you're welcome to come up higher if you want the leverage. But if you're like, it's not the best for me today, I would come forward, and I could come up. But you could also be in Sphinx Pose, and that's a pose that I teach often. So keep lifting yourself up away from your hands. Bring yourself forward and down. Get really long. Right? Tuck the toes. Come to all fours if you can't press the plank. If you can, press straight up into plank and go back up into a down dog. Go all the way back. Again, pedal the legs out however much you need to. Walk your feet forward, middle of your mat. Walk your hands back towards your feet. You're in a forward fold. So forward bending, great thing to do, but if it's not good today, I'd have my elbows above my knees, right? But if I'm forward and I'm down, I'm gonna organize my toes. I'm gonna use my thumbs to separate my big toes. I'm gonna use my thumbs on the baby toes. So I want my toes not to overlap, and if they do, right, you can use your fingers to sort them out, right? Roll yourself up into a standing position. As you roll up, take the arms up overhead and hook the thumbs and bend the knees and bring the weight into the heels of the feet. So just get it, I'm a big believer in hanging from objects, whether it's molding or bars. Really, really good for your shoulders, very good for your spine. So it's something you could use with a wall, but just the force of a bar or something that's structured, like a tree branch, right? Very, very good for the shoulders. And then come back up to straight legs, and you can take the arms back down. So I'm gonna take my left leg up off the floor. As I take my left leg up, I could pull the knee into my chest. I could use my hand. So if it's lack of flexibility, of course use your hands. But if it's a combination of flexibility and strength, use the hands when you need it. Don't use the hands when you don't need it. People will lean back in space. You want to be directly over your right foot. Take the left leg out to the left a little bit, or bring it up more. And then as you take the knee up into the shoulder, all this hip work will help the upper body. Bring the left leg forward, bring the left leg down, and then take the right leg up off the floor. Use a chair, use a wall, right? Great things to do. Use your hands to pull your leg up. So I'm using my hands, but now I'm gonna start to use more of the strength of my hip, so to keep it up and in. And then take it out to the right a little bit or a lot. Think that you're touching your right shoulder with your right knee. Find an angle that you're weak in. Work on that angle, really work on it. And then bring it forward and bring it down. You're just a basic standing position. So bring the feet together and step the left foot in front of the right foot. So when your feet are straight, it's more difficult to balance. You can close the eyes or keep them open. Probably one of my favorite things to do is walking on a bar, a fence. Not easy to do, but very, very good for balance. You can have the left foot next to the right. You can set the right foot in front of the left. And it could be just a curb, start with a curb. And then as you get really good at balancing on a curb, or just like a crack in the sidewalk, then you can graduate to, something that's a little bit off the ground, 2 feet, and then it could be, 3-4 feet off the ground, 5 feet, something like that, right? So close the eyes if you can, and then bring the right foot next to the left. Take the hands behind the head and move the head back in space. Come into extension. So extend yourself up, lean back, try to go up. Right. Come back up to center, take the arms overhead, come up onto the toes, lift the heels off the floor. So get straight through the legs. Take a couple deep breaths here. And then lower the heels and exhale, lower the arms. Come to the top of the mat, take the arms overhead, fold forward into a forward fold. Use your blocks, use a chair to support yourself in being forward, and step the left foot back into a lunge. And then in a lunge, make it nice and long, make it wide, move yourself around to get into your hips, and take your right arm up to the ceiling. So the right arm is high and the left hand is low. Right? Most of your back should do this, and if it doesn't, all the more reason to do it. So bring the right arm down. If you can, bring your elbow to a block or the floor, and take the right arm up to the ceiling. Bring it down one more time. Right elbow comes down. push through the right foot, take the right arm up. Any of these positions could be held, so you don't have to be moving like I am. Bring the right hand down and step the left foot forward. Separate the feet a little bit wider than the shoulders. Turn the feet out slightly, grab the elbows, bend the knees. You don't have to sit and do a low squat, but you could. Say you're really liking these types of classes, you could always have something close enough to you to slide underneath the heels or sit on your block, right? All of this is good to get you to squat more, and then you can free squat. Not that that's better, right? Fold forward into a forward fold and step the right foot back into a lunge. So the right foot is back, make it nice and long and wide. Move the weight around and see where you actually need to become more pliable or flexible, right? That's how I would work on my flexibilities, where I'm tight, where I'm weak, right? Take the left arm up to the ceiling so the left arm is high and the right hand is low. Get really broad through the shoulders. And I say this often, but this is really the beginning of a side plank. So if you can't do side plank, you're like, I hate side plank, right? This is somewhat what you're doing. Bring the left hand down. If you can, bring the elbow to the floor or the block, and then take the left arm up to the ceiling. Bring the elbow down, that's left elbow on left side, so the left foot is forward, and then take the left arm up to the ceiling. Bring the left hand down and then step the right foot forward. So both feet are forward. Take the hands to the left side, change the angle of your forward bend. Spread your toes. Take your hands to the right side. Again, it could be really a big bend in the knee is very good for your back. Take the hands back into the middle. Step the left foot back. Have the left heel down. Come up into an overhead position. So come up with your arms, your upper body. Think tailbone down and pubic bone up. Turn more to the right if you need it. And let's say it's just ever difficult. I really believe in straightening the leg and then going back to a bent knee. If you really needed more strength, coming in and out, which is more like a fitness type of yoga experience, is very, very good for the legs. So you can do that 3 to 10 times, something like that, right? Step the left foot a bit forward, right? Maybe this is your balance here, but if you can, come forward and balance on your right foot. So when you come forward, right, if I want to stretch out the leg more, I'm going to bring my hands to my blocks or the floor, right? But I don't want to just live there. I also want to be able to come up. You don't want to be just stuck in the position. Bring the hands down if you can. Again, if you need to keep your hands down the whole time, that is not a negative thing, right? Come up into a high lunge. So that's where the heel is up off the floor. So a high lunge is similar to Warrior 3, what we just did. It's just the difference is that the knee is bent, and it's you got 2 feet on the floor rather than 1, so it's a little bit easier to balance, right? So bring the hands on the floor either side of the right foot and step the left foot forward. So the left foot is forward. Hold on to a wall, a piece of furniture, and then you'll be able to squat down a bit better. Another way to do it. Fold forward into a forward fold. Step your right foot back for Warrior 1. Right heel comes down. Arms come up into an overhead position. So as you come up, you're turning your upper body to the left. And as you turn to the left, you'll see which side's really strong. Or say you were like, hey, I want to show my friend my Warrior 1. The side that's already good is the side that you'll show them on. So it's not to say that you don't need this good side, but you probably don't need it as much as the side that's weaker, right? So straighten your left leg out, turn your pelvis to the left, and then bend your left knee. And then as you bend your left knee, arms are up overhead. So like I said about skateboarding or surfing or snowboarding, this is why my side is so good. Whenever I jump off a curb, it's this leg that I jump onto, right? So bring the arms down, step the right foot in a little bit closer, stay here or come forward and balance on your left foot. Use a wall, of course. Arms could be overhead, right? Arms could be back. All are great, right? Just don't fall in love with anything too much, because at some point it might not help you. Bring your hands down. As the hands come down, then bring the arms up, palms up. And then bringing the hands down, and then taking the hands up. Bring them down again. Take 2 deep breaths. So this is like pyramid, it's just more active, right? Then step back with the right foot into a low lunge with hands down, or come up into a high lunge. And on Wednesday's class I did a bit of pigeon. If pigeon is really not available to you, this is why you're repeating these types of poses so often, is so that eventually you can do that pose. There's other good hip opening poses you can do, right? Take a couple deep breaths, lift through the pubic bone, bring the hands down and step the right foot forward. And with the right foot forward, you're again in a forward fold. Bring the hands on the floor and step back where your hands are underneath the shoulders. You're in a plank. You're getting smaller through the front of the body. Right, come down onto the elbows. As you come down on the elbows, reach back through the heels, pull in through the belly, pull in through the abdomen. Right? And then bring yourself down. And as you come down, you're just in a Sphinx position. So look high over the right shoulder. Look high over the left. Look center, pull yourself forward. Right? And you could stay here, even come down. But I'm gonna roll over onto my left side and do a bit of a side plank, but on my left elbow, and I'll give you some options to help you do that, rather than transitioning, because when you transition, you might not be able to do it, right? So roll onto your left side, and then as you roll on your left side, if you lack strength, you can bring your right foot halfway and then lift up. Still really good, but this will help really strengthen the inner thigh of the bottom leg. So it's my left leg. Take the right arm up to the ceiling if you can. If it's more difficult because of strength, it's good to do. But if it hurts, we don't want to do it. Bring the right arm down, spin the heels over to the right side, and then when you spin the heels to the right, you're on your right hip. Have your left foot forward. But before you come up, right, it's just people lift the hips. You want to lift from pushing through your right arm. Not that that's lifting you, but that's what's supporting you. If you don't have that support, that's when it gets risky for the shoulder. So I could have my feet together or apart. I could have the left foot forward. I could take the left arm up. But again, I'm pushing the floor away with my right arm. Not as much as I can, but I'd say at least 80% of your strength, right, in the right arm. And then bring the left hand down and then hold the plank or hold Sphinx Pose. As you're in Sphinx Pose, I'm going to take my left arm forward in space and take it out to the left, right? I'm going to try to keep my arm up. So there's this stretch that we often use in yoga where the hand is down. That is good. This is more active. It's very similar. Bring the left arm down. And then when you're down, I'm just doing it so I have more room. Just take your right arm out to the right. Get the strength in your shoulder to move the arm back in space. And say your arm doesn't move very much. It's soft tissue. Over time, you'll be able to break that up so that the arm can move back more. Then bring the arm down. Have the hands underneath you. Lift up with more of the strength of your back than your hands. So use like the majority of your strength in your upper body, and then start to top it off with the hands. And your back hurts, put something underneath your pelvis, put something underneath your abdomen, and that's an excellent, excellent way to back bend here. Right? It's so good for the lower back. Bring yourself forward, bring yourself down. Tuck the toes, lift to all fours, or lift straight up into a plank and go back up into a down dog. So go all the way back up into a down dog. Pull back through the thighs. Right, come down on the knees. And then when you come down on the knees, have the toes tucked and sit back onto the feet if you can. And for some people, this is really, really, really hard. So don't get in the, if it's difficult, you probably need it, to be honest. But it doesn't have to be the full expression. Like if it was really difficult for me, I'd sit back, right? And then I'd sit back on my feet. One or the other is going to be easier for you, right? Then you come back, you tuck the toes, you sit back on the heels, you're upright. A couple seconds, really difficult. You come out, you bring your hands down, and then I'm going to sit back on the feet. Now you could pad the knees. Maybe that's why you don't like these types of positions. Use 2 mats rather than 1. If I had a carpet here for my knees, but I had my hands or my mat on a hard piece of mat or floor, that's a great way to set it up. Then you get the best of both worlds. It might be a little uneven though. Right? Bring the hands forward, and then with the hands forward, come up into a plank again. So lift the knees up off the floor, push through the hands, push back with the hips, right? And then if you can, you're just gonna walk your hands back towards your feet, right? Just gonna do that one more time. Walk the hands forward, back into a plank. Walk the hands back towards the feet. Similar to walking up the wall into a handstand. So some of the basic things are really what you're gonna be doing one day if you aspire to do a handstand, right? Roll yourself up. As you roll up, you're in a standing position. And then take the left foot up off the floor again. And with the left foot coming up off the floor, pull the knee into the chest. The closer you pull the knee into the chest, the easier it is to grab the foot. So you could hold the foot, strap the foot, right? That's a way of doing it. You can take the leg forward. Keep the eyes still on something that really helps with balance. You can take the left arm back in space. If you have flexibility, this is the easier form. It's easier because you can rely on your flexibility. To keep the leg up, that takes way more strength. You can turn forward, you can bring the left foot down, take the right leg up, and with the right leg up, you can keep the knee into the chest. You could reach outside of the right foot with the left hand. You could take it forward. And say tree pose is a way better balancing position. That's good. Those of you that really love yoga, you could be in other positions. I'm a big believer in Baddha Konasana. All the classic seated positions are so good for yourself. You could bring the right foot down. You're going to take the feet out laterally. Turn the feet out. Take the arms out. Bend the knees. Push the knees apart. As you push the knees apart, just sit a little bit higher than the height of your knees. It requires a little bit more strength. It's okay to sit, somewhat lower. It's more based in flexibility. Bring yourself back up a little bit higher than the knees. Bring yourself a little lower, but getting more of a stretch through the inner thighs and into the hips. Take a couple deep breaths here. Okay, bring yourself back up. Bring your arms down. Turn the feet forward. And with the feet forward, come forward into a forward fold. You can stay right in the middle. I'm going to do a bit of twisting. Walk to the left foot. Hold the left ankle with the right hand. Take the left arm up to the ceiling. I'm making my left hand into a fist, and I'm trying to turn it towards you. And then I'm turning it in. And then I'm going to turn it out. Nothing crazy, right? But a little bit of motion. Turn it in. And then turn it out. Now think it's the shoulder that's touching the ceiling, the top shoulder. Bring the left hand down. Walk the hands over to the right leg. Grab the right ankle with the left hand. Take the right arm up to the ceiling. If it's too much leverage, don't grab the foot, right? Rotate the arm to you. Rotate it in. Rotate it out. Rotate it in. Rotate it out one last time. Push through the feet. Legs are strong. Right, rotate it in. Now bring the hands down in the middle and take the feet out a little bit wider if you can. So we're working more the interior of the thighs. It's an area, again, that's probably pretty tight for most people. So rely on your hands if you need it. Rely less on your hands, right? So if I wanted more leverage in my legs, I wouldn't keep my hands down, right? But if it hurts, definitely have your hands on a chair, have your hands on a block, right? I say this often, that pain won't go away. It's probably a negative pain. Toe heel the feet in a little bit closer. Bring yourself back up as you come up. Just wiggle the feet in or hop them in or jump them in. You're standing. When you're standing, right, I say this often, see what you see in front of you. So if you're like, wow, I see all of my living room over here, but I don't see anything over here, it's telling you that you're a little crooked. And that adds up. And that's a big reason why people have problematic joints. It's not the only reason, but it's a big part of that. So as you're standing, try to bring the weight into the heels of the feet, right? Just that can help relax your upper back, bring your head in a better position. Now try to lift your left heel up off the floor, and then lower it down and lift the right heel. But when you do this, notice which foot it's more difficult to pick up. You can bring the right foot down, take it up. So for me, especially when I'm stressed, I'll have more of my weight in my left foot. So when I know that I need to shift the weight over, I do it. And then you can bring the left foot down and the right foot down, right? Finding the balance there. Take the feet out a little bit wider than the shoulders. I'm gonna take a triangle pose. Turn the left foot in, turn the right foot forward. Take the arms wide, reach out to the right, grab the right shin, the foot. Explore many, many different ways of doing triangle. First, find one that is enjoyable, that helps you, and then gravitate towards doing different options, and you'll see why you'd want to do them different ways, right? It's better that you realize that than me just telling you, to be honest. Take the left arm up to the ceiling, and with the left arm being high, you can take the left arm forward where it's overhead, then bring it back up. You can bring it forward. You can bring it back up. Now, if I'm a person that wants to get lower, if you're all the way to your maximum, you'll feel stuck. So you gotta trick yourself, you gotta relax more. As you relax, you'll be able to get lower, do many, many different options. Okay, bring yourself back up. Turn your right foot in, turn your left foot out. I see people, same position for years. Same. Everything looks the same. You'll have more personal growth in the first year, 3 years of yoga. And then, unless you're getting really progressive and you're getting adjusted and you're really putting a lot of work into it, it starts to plateau. So again, you want to be doing things a little bit differently. Supplement your training, as I said in the beginning of the video. You can take the right arm forward. Like, I love yoga, that it's so simplistic, it's body weight. But it's not the best form of training for certain things that you want to develop. And that's not to bash yoga in any way, it's just fact. You can take the right arm up, you can reach higher up on the leg, right? And then you can bring yourself down. Like, just as an example, like a handstand requires more strength than certain positions. And that's why I practice handstands often. Because if I don't have a lot of time, it's a very good way to keep me in good practice. Like I said, if I'm wanting to reach the toe, I could get lower. Maybe I'm bringing the arm forward again. I can grab the big toe, and if I do grab the big toe, I'm going to push to the big toe and I'm going to turn my upper body to the right. I'm holding a little bit longer just so that you have some more time in it today. You can bring yourself back up. You can turn the left foot in, step the feet back together, just a neutral position, right? And then take your right foot into the inside of your left thigh. And then as you take it up, you can push into that. You can bring the hands together. You can take the arms all the way up. So take a couple deep breaths here. You do it with your eyes closed, which adds, it's more difficult to balance. It is not better. Just, it makes it more challenging to stay up. You can bring the hands down, the knee forward, and the foot down. You can take the left leg up. So as it gets easier, that's why you're going to want to do more difficult variations. You can take the arms up overhead. But again, something's obviously hurting your knee or something like that, find easier ways to do it. And they're really, it's more about like making better choices and practice. So you could, again, have the eyes open or closed. Take a couple deep breaths. And then you can open the eyes and you bring the knee forward. So come down into a Virasana. You could sit 2 blocks, 1 block. I'm sitting on the second level. It's a good height. It's kind of in between, but I know very well it's too low for some people. So sit high, really high. Like some people, it looks something like this. But then as you do it more, then it's more lower. Not that lower is better, but you want to regain. This is extension for the ankles. It's flexion for the knees. And how much you extend. It's a bit of neutral. It's a bit of flexion, right? But it'll help with extension. So take the arms into a cactus position. You can bring the hands forward, height of the shoulders. Right? Just get really wide through the elbows more than anything. That'll help rotate the arms in more. Take the arms back into a cactus position. Right? And then you can bring the arms down. So that's simplistic. I'm going to do a different variation. I'm going to interlace my fingers. I'm going to press my palms forward. I'm going to round my back. And then I'm going to lift the arms, lift the chest, look up towards the hands. Try to keep the hands matched together. Keep the ribs in. Bring the hands forward, round the spine, round your back. Inhale, lift the arms, lift the chin, lift the chest. I think the good thing is that you have such great weight in the lower body. As you lift the arms, that's where you're going to get more space. Do it one more time if you can. Round your back, round the spine. Inhale, take the arms up. Keep the head neutral or look up towards the hands. Take 2 deep breaths. Right, bring the arms forward, bring them down, and then just open and close the hands. You can even flick the fingers. And then just move the fingers individually if you can. Right. If you could, turn the block on a lower level. And on a lower level, if it's good, right, stay here. If it's like, I think I'm ready for more, you could sit lower. You could even take the block out. Again, not that this is better, but at some point, it's something that you can do. It's okay to have the knees apart. Perfectly fine. Most likely it'll be easier. Not better to have the legs together. It just brings more of an internal rotation of the tibias. And I've said this before, but the tibias is usually, not always, but a big part of why people have problems with their knees. You realign the tibia, your knees are going to be better off from it. So come onto your hands and your knees. And if I couldn't come up into a standing forward bend, I bring my legs forward and I rotate my feet a number of times, but I'm going to come up into a standing forward bend. So tuck the toes and lift up into a standing forward bend, and then bring your feet together and then step your left foot over your right foot, cross your ankles, cross your shins. And so very good for the hips, very good for the hamstrings. a good way to come forward. All of our anatomy is cross-referenced. So when you're working on your right side, you're helping your left, vice versa, left and right. So take a couple deep breaths here. Bring the weight into the hands, bring the left foot next to the right, cross the right foot over the left. And the leg that you kick with is typically going to be the stronger glute or, rotators. And then, so it's going to be a stronger sensation, not that it's bad, that it's stronger, right? So take 3 deep breaths here. Right, then bring the right foot next to the left. And then with the right foot next to the left, come down onto your hands and your knees one more time and sit back on the feet. So if you could, sit back on the feet. I'm going to make this into a bit of a movement if we can. So have your hands on blocks if you need it. And then I'm going to tuck the toes and try to lift the knees. And then lower the knees and then come back on the tops of the feet. So the blocks could be higher, right? You tuck the toes, you lift the knees, you lower the knees, you come back down. So it's good training of the feet, good flexion of the knees. A little bit, you don't need a ton of this, but a little bit can really make a difference. So come up onto the knees. I've been using camel a lot. I think it's a great pose if you want to use it again. And then come up on the knees, make a stack with your blocks. Right? Not that it's important to touch something, not important at all, to be honest, but it could be something to give you direction. So I could reach for the block with my left hand. I'm just rotating. Really, really good for your shoulders. Very good for your upper back. Bring yourself up and just stand. Right, stay nice and tall. Feel your bum, feel your glutes, squeeze your glutes. Turn to the left, reach for the block, or reach for the heel or the foot, right? Get a good rotation. Be really honest. Should you be there? If it's something new, take your time. Don't go all the way back. Bring yourself up. Sit back on the feet again. Take a couple deep breaths. Bring yourself back up onto your knees. Move your blocks, right? Move your blocks over to the other side if you had them. Tuck the toes if you're a person that's grabbing your heel. But again, you want your glutes to be involved. Then I'm turning my chest. I'm turning in my right foot. And then grabbing the heel or grabbing the foot. And, if you lack flexibility, you'll really need more force. You'll need ease, right? But you really need more of physical force to adjust the body so that it is more malleable. Bring yourself up. And turn, reach for the block or the foot. Just see which side it was more difficult to turn to. Might be consistent. Bring yourself back up and then sit back on the feet. Like the classic approach of grabbing the feet, it works, but it may hurt your back. That's why I use this so often. So come into a seated position where you're facing me, or I'm facing you. And then as your hands are beside you, you're just gonna take the knees to the right side. Just a bit of an internal rotation. Try to bring more of the weight in the left hip without it, it could be like really a sharp pain. You don't want that, right? But the internal rotation will really help with keeping the acetabulum or the head of the femur. It's going to help it glide more. Take the knees up and then bring the knees over to the left side. And then this is rotating the right thigh in. So you might not feel it as much on one side, doesn't mean that you don't need it. It's good maintenance. And then take the knees up and bring the knees over to the right. Now I'm at 90-90. I did this on Wednesday. I'm not going to do the full sequence, but you could come forward with your hands Like I did pigeon on Wednesday, I'm not going to do that, but all this work can help lead to that. I could do it without my hands, hold a block. Like it just requires a little bit more stability. It's not better, but like I said, it's going to be more force, and that might be what you need, you know, to adjust the outside of your hip. Bring yourself up, keep yourself up, try to get more weight in the left side, and even think that the left foot's coming off the floor. So think this is lifting, and then that'll help produce more of an internal rotation on the left hip. When you come forward, keep your back straight, but think that your right leg is touching your arms. I think your right leg's lifting up, and then that'll activate the outside of the hip more. Bring yourself up, and then when you come up, lift your left knee up off the floor. Widen your legs. As you widen your legs, take your knees over to the left side. Left leg's at 90, right leg's at 90. Just go into the right hip, and maybe this is more what you need. Not as obvious going over the left leg, but it's very underrated. It's not really practiced often. So at some point I'll do a little bit of frog pose, and that's really helpful for, this is really helpful for that. Right? You can bring your hands to the floor. Just come forward, see how it feels today, because you might need the support of the hands. And then when you come up, you're like, I want to try it, or I know that I like it with the block. You can come forward and you can come down, and you might be a bit crooked and coming forward, which is okay. You know, you don't have to be perfectly squared. If you want that kind of leverage and adjustment, it has its place. Take 3 deep breaths. Right? If you like that, there's probably more stress in coming up and down than just holding it. And that's why I like coming up and down for something like this. And then bring yourself back up. And then when you come back up, we're gonna take the knees up and bring the feet together, have the knees wide. Have the right hand on the right thigh, close to the knee but not on the knee, and push into it. And then as you push into it, lift up. And if you feel some pain, right, maybe you don't have your hand on your thigh. If you were up against a wall or a piece of furniture, you could push into both legs at the same time. That's a very good way to do it. You could release the thigh, push into the left side. As you push into the left, get a slight rotation. So the hand is, think that the hand's gliding a little bit to more of the top of the thigh. And that'll help rotate the thigh out a little bit more. So lift the thigh more into the hand, and you'll feel a greater adjustment into the hip. And then bring the hands behind you and push the knees apart. So push your legs apart, get nice and upright. Right? As you get more upright, you can, you know, like I said about the hips, you'll start to feel and understand what it's doing to the spine. And then you can bring the knees back up. And we're gonna lie back on your back. Have blocks with you or straps with you if you want to do that type of work. Once you lie back on your back, just have your knees bent, and you may just want to relax. We're gonna do just a simple exercise to strengthen the abdomen. I really like it. It adds coordination. Really good for more of an anterior lower back, pelvis type of situation. Take the hands over the shoulders, bring the knees over the hips, and bring the left leg forward in space and the right arm overhead. And it doesn't have to be all the way, but when my left leg is straight out in front of me, strengthens the muscles around the knee. Bring the hands over the shoulders, take the right leg forward, bring the left arm overhead. And then when you're having the opposition, you can keep the abdomen in, keep the ribs in, bring the hands over the shoulders, the knees over the hips, take the left leg forward, and then the right leg is back in space. So right palm is turning in, abdomen is in, ribs are in. Bring the hands over the shoulders, take the left arm overhead, and the right leg forward. Couple deep breaths here, belly in, ribs in. Right? And then bring the knees over the hips, bring the feet down, take the hands over the elbows, and lift your hips up off the floor. So as you take the hips up, ground down through the shoulders, elevate through the hips, and then bring your hips down. So if you're a person that has blocks, place blocks or pillows underneath the knees. And believe it or not, when the knees are higher, it may help in relaxing the knees out more, or relaxing the inner thighs, because then they really relax. If they're always in a state of stress, like really low, they almost feel kind of stuck. So when the knees are actually a little bit higher, it's much easier, but you'll notice again the tissues will relax, it'll be easier to take the legs out. So it's really a combination. I said you'll need more force. Remember when we're doing camel? But you also need more easy type of work. Like think of like Tai Chi or Feldenkrais, like all that stuff's really, really gentle. Qigong, all really, really good for you. Again, it's a combination. So breathe in, breathe out, let yourself go. It's very easy not to practice, so it's good that you did. Say you're like, oh, I love this, I want to stay longer, most certainly do that. If you have blocks, change the angles and just kind of see. But like I said, there's value in being up and there's value in being low, just like bridge. So if I'm coming up, I'm going to take my knees up and I'm going to roll to my right side and I'm going to bring myself up. And as I sit up, I could sit on a higher surface. I sit up, I'm sitting cross-legged, nice and tall. This is a difficult position for you. Set up something in your house that you frequently sit in, and that'll help. Palms can face up. All right, nice and tall. You can bring your hands together if you'd like. Had a great time today. Hope you enjoyed the class. Have a beautiful weekend. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow in class, and that's at 10 o'clock on Zoom. Thanks for all the donations. I'm taking donations on Venmo and PayPal, and it helps me teach people for free. So all my classes are on my YouTube channel. Subscribe, like it, share it if you can. Many blessings.